Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy and I'm here to talk about the books that I read in the second half of July and do my July wrap up for stats. I did talk about the first, I think it was 9 books that I read in the beginning of the month. You can check out my mid-month wrap up. I'll post it up in the cards. And otherwise, let's just get into it. So we will go over stats first and then talk about the rest of the books that I read. So here we go. 18 books in the month of July. That's a little bit back on track to where before 2022 where my reading was. I used to average between 20 to 23 books a month, so this is getting closer to my old average, but 2022 so far has been definitely a slower reading month, and this is the second highest reading month so far. But 18 books for a total of 5,201 pages, and I averaged 0.8 days on average per book. So that means it took me like less than a day usually to read a book. The average page count was 288.94. And then I have my page breakdown. So I read 3 books less than 100 pages, 5 in the 200s, 7 in the 300s, 2 in the 400s, and 1 in the 600. Alrighty, then I read 7 books specifically for clubs, readathons, and read-alongs. I also do participate in quarterly reading challenges, and I don't count those books in this stat because those are 3-month long, and every book I read, I try to put in those reading challenges. So I don't count those in case you were wondering. 5 of the books I read had diversity of some kind. I read 7 new authors, and I reread 1 book. 7 of the books I previously owned in paperback, and 4 books I have added to my wish list. So a lower end of books I need to add to my wish list this month. Now, I read 5 books via paperback, 10 books in ebook format, 2 audiobooks, and then I read 1 book where I read the paperback while listening to the audio. Alright, halfway done through the stats. So I read 8 traditionally published books and 10 indie published books. The decades I read in were 1 in the 1810s, 1 in the 2000s, 8 in the 2010s, and then 8 in the 2020s. My average rating was 4.39 stars, and I read 8 5-star books, 2 4.5-star books, 4 4-star books, and 4 3.5-star books. And then last but not least, the genres I read in. I read 9 contemporary romances, 6 fantasy romances, and 3 historical romances. And then I break down my contemporaries even farther for sub-genres. So I read 1 dark romance, 1 rom-com, 2 small town, 3 sports, and then 2 just normal contemporary romances. And that is that for stats. So the first couple books I won't go too much into. I read these for my Hockey Champions readathon. So check out the vlog I did where I talk in depth about all the books that I read during that week. And the first book I'm going to talk about, which is the 10th book I read in the month of July, is My Halloween Heartbreak. This is by Melanie Ting. This is the second book in her Holiday Hat Trick series. I gave this 4 stars and I enjoyed it. It was super cute. This is the first time I read Melanie Ting, and I definitely want to read more from her. And then the last book I read for my readathon was Juliana Stone's Offside. This is the first book in her Barker Triplets series, and this has a female hockey player, and she used to be professional and now she is playing beer league when she comes back home after some injuries, and I gave this 4.5 stars. So I really enjoyed this. I definitely want to read more, but I haven't picked it up yet because they weren't hockey romance, and I was reading hockey romance at that time. So I definitely do want to finish that triplet series though. So those, like I mentioned, are in my vlog. So we will talk about other books that I have read. So the Rake Appreciation Society book for the month was The Lady Chosen by Stephanie Lawrence. I gave this 3.5 stars. This is the first book in her Bastion Club series, and this is also my first Stephanie Lawrence, and I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it a lot. I originally was thinking of rating it 4 stars, but I decided to drop it down to 3.5 because I did wish there was a little bit more, movement, and it felt like the mystery and the stakes that some of the people were going through with the mystery were a little too much. They didn't match. So what it is our hero, I am horrible at names. I need to start taking better notes when I do this, but the hero, I want to say Tristan, it starts with a T. He is setting up a house to kind of be a refuge for his Bastion Club, and they're all former military men. Can I help you? My goodness, I am sorry for the constant screaming in the background. Say sorry? Yeah, say I'm sorry, people. I just want mommy's attention. Alright. But he, the lady next door, she lives with her brother and her uncle after her parents had passed away, and she is a lady. She's not like high society, but she is in like the ton, and she approaches him because they were kind of aggressively sought after to have their house bought, and they did not want to sell, and so she approaches him because she wants to know, because he bought the house next door, if he was behind the solicitor that was bothering them so much. And then we also find out that there were a couple attacks made against her as well. And so him, being the military man that he is, decides to take point on this case, and he helps her kind of figure out what's going on. And at the same time, he starts to fall in love with her, which is perfect because he needs a wife to keep his inheritance. I definitely enjoyed it. The relationship between the two, 5 stars. I loved the way that Stephanie Lawrence writes their relationship. It is very steamy, especially for a historical romance that came out at that time. And I am definitely excited to read more of Stephanie Lawrence. I know a lot of people love her Sister series, and the first book, particularly Devil's Bride, I have been wanting to read that forever. So now that I finally have read a book from her, I think Devil's Bride has kind of popped a little bit up my TBR, maybe during the next round of the historical romance readathon. But anyway, that's a different book. 3.5 stars for The Lady Chosen, but enjoyment level, I definitely would say it's more 4 or 4.5 star because it did not deter me from Stephanie Lawrence at all. I also feel like I gave it a little bit of leeway because this was my first Stephanie Lawrence, and it seems like she has a very formulaic way of writing historical romance. So after that, I had some free time, so I picked finally picked up Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is the first book in her Chestnut Springs series, which is a spin-off of her Gold Rush Ranch series, which I love. The first book in that series, Off to the Races, was my favorite contemporary romance last year, but I cannot stop talking about Elsie Silver. I love Elsie Silver. She is one of the sweetest authors, and this book is going around on BookTube right now, and she hit number 1 in like Western romances or something, and she for the first time hit top 100 I saw today in her Amazon Kindle store, and it couldn't happen to a nicer, sweeter person. I love Elsie. I love her books, and Flawless was amazing. 5 stars. I loved it. It did not dethrone Off to the Races as my favorite, but Off to the Races just has some extra stuff that really speaks to me personally, like the way that it handles grief and talks about grief and things like that. But I loved Flawless. I cannot wait to see what happens in the next book, which is Heartless, I think. There's a teaser in the back. Yeah, Heartless. And if all goes correctly, it should be out in October. I can't believe it took me so long to pick this up. This came out back in June, but I have finally read it. I am caught back up on her backlist, and I am ready for more Elsie Silver. 5 stars. If you did not know, this is Rhett and Summer. Rhett is a bull rider professionally, and Summer has just started working at her dad's he has an agency business, and so when he says some silly things, they get taken out of context and kind of ruin his image into some of his sponsorships. She gets sent to babysit him for the rest of the tour, and it is their romance. We got forced proximity. There's some only one bed. We've got shenanigans with him and his brothers, and his brother also has a friend. I can't remember his name, but he is a hockey player, and he's considered family, but he's not actually one of the brothers, but he grew up with him, and he is a grumpy NHL goalie, which I hope he gets a book too. If you could not tell, I love Elsie Silver. I love to gush about her. I wish more people would read her, and I'm so happy that she is kind of getting that BookTube, Bookstagram surge right now. So I love her to pieces, for sure. Then I needed to read the Smart Women Read Romance exclusive Patreon pick. The theme for July was dark romance, and Raze by Tillie Cole won the poll. And this is the first book in her Scarred Souls series. I originally was going to rate this like a 4, and I was debating a 4.5, but I decided to drop it to a 4. And then after I had about a day to think about it, I was thinking of dropping it down to a 3.5, but then during the live show, and I was able to more talk my thoughts out with people, I have dropped this down to a 3.5 star. Now, Raze, the character himself, I really enjoyed. I thought he was really interesting. Why are you screaming at me? Can't I film something without you screaming? She just wants attention. I will give you a lap after I finish filming this. She is fussy in her old age. She turns 21 this year. And if you did not know, her name is Cheese. So, I really, really enjoyed Raze himself. I did wish, let me give you the blurb of this. So, Raze was, as a young man, I want to say either preteen or early teenager years. So, he is the son of like the number 2 guy of the Bratva in New York, and he is best friends with the head of the Bratva. His his son, and he has a twin daughter who is our heroine, and they are twins. And then she and Raze are basically like, no, it's said, it's really sweet. When she's born, he just is like, she's mine to protect, she's mine. He just has this instinctual knowing that is his. And so they've always just kind of known that they will end up together. They've been in love with each other since they were young. And then there is the number 3rd guy in line, and he has a son named Alec. And what happens is Alec kills the twin brother, so the heir to the Bratva, pins it on Raze before he becomes Raze, and he does this by stabbing himself in the stomach. And then we come to find out that this was, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but you kind of get the hints from it throughout, and it was kind of easy to put together, in my opinion, so I'm just gonna say it. But his father basically convinced him or led him to do this. And then Raze, when he gets sent to like a Russian farming place because they don't want to kill him, but for killing this other guy, he can't get away scot-free, you know? But he's a child, so they don't just want to outright murder him. So he gets sent to a farm. However, the bus is attacked by Georgian mafia, and everyone believes he is dead. What really happened to him is he got sent to a Georgian underground prison up in Alaska, where they have underground fighting and gambling and all that. And he was basically raised for the past over 10 years, I want to say. Or maybe it's been less than 10 years, but it's been a while. And was raised to become a fighter, and so they're fights to the death kind of thing. It's very brutal. It is a dark romance, so definitely check out any triggers. But there's an escape. He finds his way to New York. He was told by his one friend in there, he was known as number 818, and then they gave him the name Raze, and his only friend was 392, I think. And when he first got there, he was like, carve the name of the person who sent you here into your wall, and if you ever get out, you will know who you need to find to get your revenge. So all he has is Alec's name and an address in New York. Years later, he comes back. Alec is still obsessed with the heroine. They are engaged, and outside of that prologue, we start with him pretty much raping her, and there is a lot of very descriptive, very long rape scenes in this, including one very near the end of the book. And that was probably one of my biggest things, is I wanted revenge against Alec earlier, and for him to die earlier. I would have liked it at like the 60 to 70%, and then have the rest of the book being rehabilitating Raze into becoming him figuring out how to live in the real world again, kind of a thing. Because I just was so intrigued by him, and I also wanted Alec to die. And it's in the cage fight, and I get it, that's the thing, they're cage fighters, but I wanted a glorier revenge against him. It kind of felt as a letdown. And then the heroine makes some very stupid decisions. There's some side characters that make very stupid decisions, but the biggest thing I can say about it is about her, and specifically is she knows she has probably a psychopathic fiance, and he is very controlling. He doesn't even like other men to look at her, even if they are related to her or her father, or have no interest in her whatsoever. But if they even look in her direction, he gets insanely hyper jealous and violent. And what does she do? She takes Raze out to the beach and has sex with him in public. Like, nobody's gonna catch that. And there is specifically mentioned that there are other people on the beach. And it blows up spectacularly. But 3.5 stars. I may or may not pick up the rest of the series. Who knows? I also was very sad because I was really hoping that number 392 got a book. And Raze has to kill him in this book. I was so upset that 392 died. I mean, that's how unconnected I was to the heroine, is I cared more about seeing 392 come back and getting ready for his book. But that's not going to happen. So we'll see if I end up picking up the other books. If they are, I think I'm definitely going to check out some of the triggers or reviews to see if there is a similar situation where rape is not a trigger for me, but it is. They're very long, very descriptive scenes, and it went on too long in the book. It should have been taken care of. And once her and Raze got together, okay, fine, let her still be raped by her weird fiance dude, but I don't need to see it anymore because I'm focused on Raze and our heroine. So that makes me nervous about picking up other books by Tillie Cole, but never say never. Then I needed to pick up a couple of my TBR prompts. So for the new author for July, I chose Dylan Newton, and I picked up How Sweet It Is. This is a rom-com contemporary, and it is Kate and Drake, and Drake is a horror writer, and she is an event planner, mostly weddings. She's known for having an HEA moment, or an ah moment, that gives that extra little, the way she describes it is that extra little memory to just like make the celebration or the event just puts it over the top. And she talks about how it's making memories for other people. Like, they're not going to remember like the finer details, like of scheduling and planning all this, but she's helping people make memories. And I love the way that she talked about event planning. And so her friend, wedding is canceled, and she helps her publisher friend out to plan the book release party for his 10th book. He's a very popular horror writer. He's known as the Knight of Nightmares. And he also has, his latest book has been optioned to be a movie. And it's, I mean, it is what it is. This is a traditionally published rom-com from 2021. I went in not expecting much, and it just, after reading Raze, this just gave me exactly what I expected from it. It was light, it was funny, it was sweet, it was cute, and so 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it. I am okay that I have this on my shelves. This was given to me as a gift in 2021, so I definitely will not be unhauling it, at least as of now. I thought it was super cute. There is a book, they are not a part of a series, but there is a book that is set up with one of his brothers that came out earlier this year, and her publisher friend. So I am intrigued to read that, but I definitely will wait until I am wanting something like this. And the best way I can describe this book, as punny as it is this book is just very, very sweet. It just is. I mean, it is what it is, and I enjoyed my time with it, and it was the perfect palate cleanser that I needed. Then, the other TBR prompt that I had left was to continue a backlist of an author, and for July, I chose Jackie Lau. And so I finally picked up, it came out in March of this year, Book 4 in the Cider Bar Sisters series. This is her favorite Rebound, 4.5 stars. I love this. This is Sierra's book, and there's been kind of an ongoing like fun thing in the series that so her name is Sierra Wu, and in this world there is a very popular urban fantasy and the main character's name is Sierra Wu, and in the first book the heroine is obsessed with this series, and they talk about how there's going to be a movie that's coming out about this urban fantasy series, which please give me Hidden Legacy, Kate Daniels. I'd love to see that in film, TV, something. But so we're finally at her book. The movie is finally out. So we have seen in the previous couple books, she is dating Colton, who is a super popular, well-known billionaire. Jeff Bezos, like, it's a name that everybody knows because he is very rich, very much in the media. And he's very busy, but she is okay with that. She does have struggle with her parents. She is a divorcee. One thing I love about Jackie Lau's, especially the series, is all the people are in their, I think they're all in their 30s, if not early 40s. But maybe the first book, maybe the heroine was late 20s. But they're all older main characters, which is fun. And so Sierra is out on a date with Colton, and he goes off to take a phone call, and Jake is sitting at a different table. And so Sierra is Asian, Colton is white, and Jake is also Asian, I think. And he's Asian. Look at the cover. Oh my gosh, I'm so silly. But he sees her sitting at a table, and he just has that knowing. Once again, he's like, that's the woman I'm going to marry. That's my soulmate. I found her. There she is. She's sitting right there. And then Colton sits down. And Jake actually used to work for Colton as one of his lawyers. However, once he kind of saw the dirtier side, he is definitely one of those billionaires that is not a good person, that takes advantage of slave labor and low age requirements for places. He owns his own island, and so there's all of these. You hear him. He's not like an angel billionaire person. So he kind of pointed out to her that she should not be dating him. And he knows because he got high enough working with Colton that he was invited to his parties and his going-ons. And he's just like, he's never had a girlfriend. He's not a girlfriend type of dude. And so he corners her in the bathroom and tries to convince her to break up with Colton. And then gives her his number. And then he looks her up online. She owns this cute little stationary gift card shop that's in Baldwin Village, which is another of Jackie Lau's series. And the first book is Ice Cream Lover, and that's my favorite of Jackie Lau's books. But so it's super cute to kind of hear about the Baldwin Village people, and at least their shops. And so, they're all... She has like one big universe. You can see like connections to all her, or Easter eggs, I guess, to all her other books. But I really, really love this. 4.5 stars. It is a love triangle, but it didn't feel that weird. There is cheating. Colton cheats. Sierra catches Colton cheating on her. However, before she breaks it off with him, when she finds him in that moment, I would say you could say that she's emotionally cheating on Colton, although they both aren't as emotionally invested in each other. It's more of a physical relationship, and she's also kind of starting to notice things about Colton that isn't fulfilling her needs in the relationship. And so she's thinking more and more about Jake, and they aren't acting on it, but she's definitely starting to have feelings for Jake. It's not a 5 stars because I wish that when she cut Colton off, and he does try to come back and win her back a couple of times, which is fine. But I do wish that she cut Colton off earlier so we got to see more time between Jake and Sierra. But it didn't feel wrong. I just wanted more of them together because I love Jackie Lau's writing, and it's always too short, no matter how many pages it is. So I did wish that we got to see them together a little bit more. And then when the big final, and then she also pushes him away because she's on the rebound. She doesn't want to fall for him. She just wants it to be physical, and she pushes a little too much for me. I wish she would have given in to him a little bit more and been honest with herself a little earlier about her true feelings, but that's fine. I still enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. And then I had some free time, so I picked up Love at First Fight. This is by Carrie Aarons. I saw that Shelby Taggart read this last year, I want to say, and the cover has stuck out in my mind for the longest time. So I thought, oh, I'll finally read it. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. And this is Smith and Molly. So Molly is not super well off. She is a teacher at an inner city school that's low on funding. She usually works a couple jobs during the summer to get extra income to help buy her impoverished kids school supplies and things like that. But she was dating this guy who is definitely a lot more well off, and he convinced her to join with his friends in a house share in the Hamptons over the summer, so that whenever you're not working and you have free time, you can go to the Hamptons and hang out there and get out of the city during the summer. And she has also convinced one of her friends to join, so she's still gonna go. Her ex-boyfriend, he's now an ex-boyfriend. When the house share starts, it has been a month since he broke up with her. He broke up with her by texting her that he was headed to Singapore alone because his job has transferred him there. And he also texted her when he was sitting on the tarmac in the plane. So there wasn't really any closure there. So she ends up getting a room to herself, and she has her friend there, and then all of his friends, including Smith, who was his best friend. And it is Love at First Fight. This is a enemies to lovers romance. Most of the enemy portion has taken during the year and a half that Molly was with her ex, because same thing. When Smith met Molly, he knew she was the one for him, and to keep himself from trying to make any moves, to keeping his distance, to not intruding or causing issues for her and his best friend, he put her in a box in his mind, is the way he describes it, that he has to be rude to her and he has to make her hate him and he has to hate her, otherwise things will go kaflooey kind of thing. So I mean, it was kind of a weird situation, but I enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. I did wish that, I mean, I didn't like the third act conflict. They didn't talk, and then they got into an argument, and I don't know, she was very aware of other people, and then for her to suddenly not listen to him when he's saying that he doesn't want to celebrate his birthday because it has been about 6 months since his twin sister has died tragically. She was hit by a drunk driver and died, and so he doesn't want to he wasn't a big birthday person before this, and now he really doesn't want to celebrate his sister. And so I really liked Smith, and I thought that I liked, even though I thought it was silly why they were enemies, I did enjoy the complexity with his character. However, I also lowered my rating because I didn't like some of the terms that were used when relating to grief in here. And there was one specific point where I was like, I like said it out loud, and I had to pause because I was like, that's not. And it was him saying something about how his grief is, I don't know, manifested, I don't know, something about how his grief is affecting other people. And I get it. You need to be aware, or at least you need to try to be aware when you are going through grief, especially for someone close to you like that. He talks about how they had the twin sense kind of a thing. And so it's hitting him harder than the other people in his family. And they don't disparage him that. But they are all at the point in their grief where they can reminisce without breaking down, and they can talk about her and remember good times. And he is not at that stage yet. Everybody goes through grief differently, and his brother says something to him about how his grief is ruining the family or something like that. And I was like, no. Even he's doing stuff through grief, you don't come at him like that. And I don't know. I just had issues with the way that it was addressed at times. I mean, there were moments where it was beautiful, like when he finally opens up to Molly about his grief and they go on a hike to his sister's favorite spot, and he really opens up and cries really for the first time around somebody else with his sister. So I mean, there were really beautiful moments, and then there were other moments where I just got so angry because you do not tell somebody else how to grieve. And he wasn't like, he was just distancing himself. He wasn't attacking other people. He wasn't like doing drugs, being all crazy, where, okay, yeah, maybe you need to find some way to step in to help get them through this stage of their grief process. But then there was also a time when she mentioned that, like, they talked about grief like you got over it. And maybe it's just me. I know it's not just me. But I heard an analogy once, a long time ago, about grief as a wave. And I believe that 100%. Grief never goes away. You just learn how to handle it in better ways to be more productive in your life. And it is a wave. There are some days, even now, since my mom passed, and my mom passed almost 7 years ago, there are still days where I cannot seem to function. And I just wake up and I know it is going to be a bad day. And I push through it, and we get to the night, and it's a wave. It comes and goes. You just learn how to handle it properly, and you learn how to move on in your life without having that person there to talk to physically. So things like that, because I have experienced a lot of grief in my life, I guess I'm overly sensitive to it. But if you're gonna write about grief, you cannot have a character saying that somebody is grieving wrong without it later then being brought up that is not how you support someone who is also grieving, whether you are grieving yourself or not. And I would have forgiven it had it been a discussion later on about that is not how you handle somebody who is grieving, especially when they are earlier in their grief process than you and they haven't moved on as fast as you. I hate it when people tell other people how they should be grieving. It really, really bothers me. So 3.5 stars. And that got a little ranty, which I wasn't expecting, but like I mentioned earlier, that is one reason why Off to the Races hit me so deeply is the way that Elsie wrote about grief in that book. And she mentions it in the second book of Photo Finish too, but it's a different kind of grieving. But the grieving that she wrote about in Off to the Races, it just... I need to reread that book. But, alright. This is going to be a long wrap up. I have one book left though. We are at book 18. So let's not try to ramble on about this one, although it's going to be hard because the last book I read was the book for the SJM along this month, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 2 in her A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR. 5 stars. 5 freaking stars. I understand the hype about Reese. I get it. I get it. I do not collect paperback books, or I do not collect hardcover books usually. It's very rarely, if there's like a special edition, I will get a hardcover book. So I have all paperbacks of these books. I have all paperbacks of SJM's books. I am at the point where I am very seriously considering finding hardback covers in these books, and then finding all the pretty dust jacket artworks for both this and her other series. I am going down the SJM rabbit hole. I understand. I am with you. I am on Team Faceand. Take all my money. Just take all of my money. That's really the best way I can say it. I love this book. I absolutely loved it. It was so freaking encompassing. I loved meeting, oh my gosh, Morgan. And we get to see meet Cassian and Azriel and Amren. I think Amren. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I did. This is the book that I read. I read the paperback while I listened to the graphic audio, which if you have not listened to the graphic audio, what are you doing? Graphic audios are amazing. I did not buy my graphic audio. It is available on Hoopla through your library. Just saying. But oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start about this book. So it picks up a few months after A Court of Thorns and Roses, and there is a lot of dealing with different kinds of PTSD and recovery and healing, and emotionally healing and physically healing. And we've got Farah dealing with PTSD, Tamlin's dealing with PTSD, Rhysand's dealing with PTSD. I mean, on top of, I think everyone in this book is dealing with PTSD or just fallout of some sort of Amarantha's reign. I mean, you've got Cassian and Azriel and, you know, all of his inner court struggling with coming to terms for what Farah and Rhysand had to do to survive. And while they are thankful for what they did to keep them and keep Valaris safe, they also they don't fully know, but they know it took a toll on them and on their souls. And I just... What is wrong with you? Come here. Come here. I will give you a lap in a minute. But I love this book. I love this book. I understand this book. We got some steam in this book. The way that Rhys just really took care of Farah, and I loved that he asked her what she needed and gave it to her, and he did push her, But if he pushed her too hard, or he saw that his pushing wasn't helping, he backed off. And he really tried to do what was best for her instead of what he thought was, like, he listened to what she was saying, what she needed, instead of doing what he thought she needed. And he did a lot better job of trying to not let his own trauma affect his relationship with her and use that to control her. Now, I do hope that Tamlin gets an HEA. I do give him some grace because he is definitely struggling, and I know a lot of people dislike Tamlin. I have to say, I am more disappointed in the people around Tamlin than Tamlin himself, because he's obviously struggling. And we do see Lucian tried a couple of times. He tried to say things, but he stepped down. And even if he wasn't going to step up for Feyre, he should have stepped up for Tamlin being his friend. And the other guards, or, you know, the servants, somebody should have stepped in because Feyre was wasting away. So I get, Tamlin was too sucked into his own trauma to really see too far outside of himself. And I give him grace for that because he is struggling too. But he takes it too far by the end. But you know, who knows what Ianthe told him. He's too far gone. And we don't really know what happens from when Feyre leaves the spring court and joins the night court. We don't know what happened when Tamlin returned and saw that she was gone. We don't know what he was told by his guards, by the servants, or anybody there. So, I mean, I'm not condoning his actions, especially of how it turned out at the end of the book, but I do say that we don't have the full picture. And I do hope that at some point he does get an HEA, because he really was a lovely person in the first book, and he deserves to find his mate too. But it is not Feyre. I love this book, guys. I love this book. I could just go on and on and on about it. And I don't know why I waited so long, but at the same time, this is super fun to read it in this format with everybody else and to gush about it with people who are rereading it and be a first-time reader. And I'm not the only first-time reader that is taking part in the read-along, so I am definitely enjoying myself, and who knows what in the heck is going to happen. I will have to say, the last little bit, I could not stop reading. I didn't want to take a break to go to the bathroom. I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then I was crying, and I was like, oh my God, he took the mate bond. He took the mate bond. But then when he didn't take the mate bond, and it was just the bargain bond. And then we find out that Feyre's the high lady of the night court. Oh my God. I was like fangirling and having, the ending of this book is so cinematic and spectacular, and the graphic audio just, when they're dealing with the cauldron and you hear Nesta just screaming in the background, the graphic audio, man, the graphic audio is so freaking good. I understand the hype now, and it lived up to the hype. And if you have not read this book, let's join the read along and catch up, because I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it now. I get it. And that is all I have for you. I love books, guys. I love books. Even if they're not like the best book, I love reading, and I love all these different worlds, and I love finding books that I love. I love it. It makes my heart so full. And I don't know what I do. Big Brother's currently airing, and I don't think I could handle going into Big Brother and living almost 3 months without being able to read a book that's not the Bible. I mean, I'd probably read the Bible like 4 million times because I can't not read. I love books, and I hope you love books too. And I hope you love these books. Let me know if you have read any of these, if you have similar thoughts or different thoughts. I definitely wouldn't mind hearing some perspective on some of the books I struggled with this month, but let me know down below. And if you had a favorite read or a least favorite read of July, also let me know that so I can constantly add them to my TBR, or be a little more wary if it's your least favorite if I pick it up in a future point. If you are interested in what I'm planning on reading in August, you can check out my August TBR video here. It's a little more loosey-goosey because I've got life stuff that's going on a lot this month, but it should be, I should have a decent reading month at the very least with the readathons and the book clubs I have going on, but we will see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you liked what you saw and want to chat more books with me, and I will see you all very, very soon.